So to put everything together, I did an arrangement with all four arranging techniques encompassed over the two choruses of the melody of Ladybird. So I used all four techniques throughout. And I do want to say before you do something like this, I would recommend that you do at least two choruses each of each arranging texture. So I would do one version of unisons, only unisons of Ladybird, another version of sixth, and of course the sustained and rhythmic shells too. Um, it's really important that you get a good handle on each tool. And you're going to find that when you set up limitations for yourself, whether it's in composition, arranging, or improvisation, and you focus in on one specific tool or device, that's going to help you master that one tool, one device. And then you want to get a really great handle on that before you start putting them all together. So most of the time when you take things away, that's when you and limit yourself, that's when good things will happen. So you want to keep that in mind. And you might find that you do a full arrangement of each, and then you decide you want to make a combined version like this, and maybe you just like kind of Frankenstein an arrangement together based on the sounds that you liked in each individual version you did prior. That sometimes happens, you know. And so as long as you smoothed over the edges, made sure the voicing was good and that the flow was good throughout the entire two choruses, you could definitely get away with that. So, you know, I would encourage you to get to know each tool really well before you start putting them all together. So here's my combined version of Ladybird, where I used all four techniques. Now, before I started, I sat down and I mapped out a plan of how I wanted it to sound. And this is really important as an arranger. Think of it this way: when they go to make a building, you know, there's an architect that sits and makes for months, years, however big the building is, and creates a blueprint, a very detailed blueprint, you know, which decides where every little last detail goes. And so they don't just start grabbing bricks and slapping it together and, you know, at the end of the day, look up at it and like, oh, I guess that's the building. Like, you know, that's not how it works. You want to have that same approach here for arranging. And even though it's a short tune like this, it's only 32 bars, it's a smaller, you know, small group with three horns and rhythm section, you still need to have a plan. My plan was going into it was I want the first chorus to be small and thin textures, mostly unisons and thirds and sixths. So that would give me some smaller sounds, some colorful textures and instrument combinations that would build into the second chorus. It's going to be thicker and heavier and denser. And this is where I relied mostly on my three-part shells, rhythmic and sustained voicings. So I had a plan going in mind. That doesn't mean I'm stuck to it or it's not etched in stone, but it's a good idea to have some sort of plan, even if you change your mind and go off that path, that will lead you to another better plan. It's all part of the process. So let's take a closer look. Like we said earlier, I wanted to have thin textures for this first chorus. So I have unison texture here for these first 8 bars, unison octaves here with trumpet and trombone, and then unison pitch here for tenor and trombone. So these are going to sound different. This is going to be a more mellow brass sound where you can see we're both instruments are in comfortable ranges. And then here we have tenor sax and trombone both on the same note, and it's going to be kind of a meaty, dark, kind of you know, darker sound than this will be, and that sets up this kind of light, colorful, thin sound here where we have um, the tenor sax in harmonizing a third below the melody, and trombone picks up in these last 2 bars. So it's important to note that during these first 12 bars that not everybody is playing the entire time. I have rests here for tenor sax and for trombone here, excuse me, and then trumpet here. So even if it's just 3 horns or 3,000 horns, you want to make sure that you don't have everybody playing all the time. Um, it's important that you are having a variety of texture and color. And if you have everybody playing all the time, it's kind of the equivalent of going into the spice cabinet and taking out all the spices and dumping them all into every meal that you eat. Like everything is going to taste the same. So when we take some people away and give the people a chance to rest, we're allowing for some other colors and textures to come out. And then especially for the brass players here, we're giving them a chance to rest, which becomes a lot more important when we get into more taxing writing. So we have a variety of colors going on by adding and taking people away. Now I'm going to go kind of finish strong with everybody from here to the end. So I go to sustained shell voicings here, spread out really wide. I have the F below, so we have like an octave plus a fifth here, going into another shell voicing here. And this one's a little bit different because I'm anticipating and a four here with the melody, and then going into uh, unison octaves here. So this effect is going to be a really wide spread out, coming in together into closed position within one octave, and then strong unison octaves to set up the next chorus, which we said is going to be really thick texture and strong and powerful. So I go with rhythmic shells for the first two bars with the trombone in the middles, right? Because I want that powerful sound. And then I release a little tension here with sustained shell voicings. And so note the voice leading here as well. These are like not big leaps from one to the next. I do the same texture here for these next four bars. Now, earlier we said that this tune, is 16 bars long, and we have these two 8-bar phrases that are broken up into 4 plus 4, if you will. And this first 8 bars is, very much a call and answer, antecedent, consequent relationship between them. So if I'm going to use this texture change here halfway through and go from rhythmic into sustained shell voicings, it makes 1000% sense for me to do it here exactly the same in this spot. So that was an easy choice. I switch it up here for the ending here, and I go to sustained shells to get a little lighter texture, only to come back and kind of start hitting it hard here towards the end into rhythmic shells. And then there's a lot of stuff going on in these last 4 bars. Again, here we are in shell voicings, a little closer together, but everyone here is moving parallel in rhythmic shell voicings that are all related to this chord, and anticipating this E here in the melody, G7, similar voicing we used earlier. And then in this case, I'm going to unison pitch and spreading out into sustained shell voicings here. And so the effect that's going to happen in these last 4 bars is like it's pretty wide spread out. We all come together, and then it gets really thin here on the C sharp, only to spread back out for this and a 4, and this note sustained while these other chord tones move below. So there's a lot of action going on here. And so this is just kind of goes to show you how you can combine a lot of these techniques in the middle of a line. So let's take a listen. Thank you, Sibelius, for that lovely rendition. Okay, so, as we know, the computer playback is not going to be like live musicians, right? You're not going to hear all the stuff that I just said anywhere near as clearly as you would if you were to have live musicians play this arrangement. So I highly encourage you to get your arrangements played by live musicians. The computer playback can serve a purpose to check the notes and rhythms to make sure that everything is okay, missing accidentals, or to get this get the idea back in your head for the day. But it's not going to be like the real thing. But you will hear that there's no, as you can see, there's no chordal player, and I just wrote kind of a generic bass line below so you could hear the harmony. But you should be able to hear the chord changes clearly within the horns, especially when you get to the shell voicing section, without any chordal player. So that's an important distinction. Is you want to be able to hear the chord changes in the horn voicings as they go by, even without a piano or a guitar. And so this is just one way to do it. I created my plan. I went ahead and executed, made a few changes along the way. But there's no shortage of combinations, and there's infinite combinations, even with just these four arranging techniques. So this is just to give you a quick snapshot of what's possible. And I look forward to hearing and seeing what you come up with. Thank you again for joining me today. It was really great to work with you all. I hope you got some great ideas to work with, and I think you're going to find that these arranging techniques are really effective and a great place to start. I did want to leave you with a few quick final thoughts. First, make sure you play these arrangements with live musicians. The computer is not a substitute for that. You need to hear and feel these colors and timbres in person for yourself, and get feedback from the musicians themselves too. That's really important. Second, if you're really interested in composing and arranging, you got to learn how to play some piano. It's really important. It's like the whole orchestra at your fingertips, and almost every great composer arranger can play some piano. Third, I only had 30 minutes to work with today, so I omitted a lot of material. And so I would highly encourage you to go check out some arranging books for some more, further in-depth study. And you're going to find that there's a ton of great ones out there. I mean, there's this Gary Lindsay jazz arranging techniques. There's Arranging for Large Jazz Ensemble by Dick Lowell and Ken Pulig. There's Inside the Score. I mean, there's no shortage of great books out there. And go check them all out. Last, listen to as much music as you can and try to find some stuff that has these textures in it. Like definitely Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers is going to have a ton of these textures in there. And you've heard some of this stuff before. You just didn't know what it was, and now you've connected the dots. So that's really important. And so if you have any questions, please let me know. Here's my website. I'd love to hear from you, and I look forward to hearing your work. Thanks again.